Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. I am Frances Chowick, the Director of Data and AI Partnerships at Crunchbase, and I'm joined by my incredible co-host, Jaden Guthrie, our Product Partnership Marketing Leader. Today, we are going to walk through how Crunchbase private market predictions can be activated directly inside Snowflake to drive smarter, faster decisions across your organizations. You can ask questions at any point using the Q&A feature at the bottom of the screen or click into the chat box if you want to give feedback or just say hello. In this session, we'll focus on three things. The first is the power and differentiators of Crunchbase's private market intelligence, especially our predictions and insights capabilities. And second is how our customers leverage that intelligence across GTM, investors, product, corp dev, and wealth management. And third, how you can activate it natively inside Snowflake through Snowflake Marketplace and what it means for you for Crunchbase becoming a marketplace capacity drawdown partner. Also, a sneak peek into the Snowflake intelligence demo.
Yep. Thanks, Fran. So to help us do that, we're joined by two experts. Our first expert is Monica Abraham. She's our predictions and insights product leader, and she's internally known as the czar of P&I. She's going to walk us through the power of our data foundation and what differentiates our predictions and insights. And then our second expert is Nick Hill. He's our Director of Enablement, and he's going to provide a high-level overview of how teams leverage Crunchbase today, as well as how those same use cases come to life inside of Snowflake and drive those measurable business outcomes. And then finally, Fran and I are going to wrap it up by showing you how to activate Crunchbase on Snowflake and how to operationalize it using Snowflake intelligence.
Awesome. Thanks, Jaden. And as a quick note, I previously worked at Snowflake, so I'm really excited for this session and how intelligence is built and how to activate our data inside the data cloud. So the themes today is how we can be able to assist you in identifying opportunities, prioritizing revenue generating outcomes, as well as the native access you get with our data on Snowflake. So Monica, PNIs are over to you.
All right. Thanks, Fran. Thanks, Jaden. And yes, as Jaden mentioned, I'm Monica, product manager here at Crunchbase, and my main focus areas is our predictive intelligence data. And before we talk about our predictive intelligence data, we really have to talk about the foundation of that data and what drives these signals in the first place. So our predictions are composed of four core data sources. First, the captured data of all the data we scrape from the internet and ingest from data partnerships. This is an area we have really scaled over the years through LLMs. The amount of data we've been able to capture today is about 10x what we used to be able to capture even 3 years ago. So examples of our captured data would be funding round data from news articles or reported revenue data in 10Q and 10K forms. The next source is our contributed data. This data is all the data we get from founders, executives, or really any users on Crunchbase, editing their profiles and adding new information. It also represents the Crunchbase Venture Program members, which includes a community of venture capitalist firms that share their portfolio company data with us so we can make edits on their behalf. And similar to the captured data, we get a lot of really good funding round data from these types of users, along with company details like latest employee counts and revenue metrics. Next, we have our engagement data. So those same founders, executives, venture capitalists, and any other users that are on Crunchbase are um, also browsing on Crunchbase, creating searches with filters, viewing company profiles. We can use this all as a signal in and of itself. So if we see certain profiles with massive upticks in investor views, that's a signal that we would incorporate into our funding prediction. And lastly, but certainly not least, we have our derived data, also known as our insight data. And this is the data that we use LLMs to aggregate growth and industry data on a certain company profile and turn it into labels like growing, stable, and not growing. And these labels in turn can be used to train our prediction models, or just simply if you're a user, you can use it to discover high quality growing companies beyond just using funding data to infer growth. So the captured data, contributed data, engagement data, and derived insight data all account for what we use to build our predictions. And with that, let's talk about how we've evolved our predictions over the years. So, starting with 2024, this is really when we first launched our predictions and insights products. And while this is where we first launched it, we actually started building these products over a year before we even launched them. And this is really where Crunchbase transformed from collecting historical facts only to taking those historical facts and building predictive intelligence with them. And this also marked the first in the market for predicting company outcomes early and at scale. Moving into 2025, this was really the year that we honed in on improving the accuracy of our predictions and therefore the impact that we have on our customers with our predictions. As we monitored our predictions performance on real world data, we found and addressed gaps in our models by adding new data and expanding our prediction types. And not only did we improve our accuracy, but we also learned it was critical to our customer base to have really strong coverage. So we expanded our coverage of our predictions as well. And last but not least, in 2025, we had customers successfully embed these predictions in their own workflows. And this directly provided the feedback around the areas we improved in 2025. Now, moving into 2026, this is really where we are aiming to set the standard for what predictive intelligence is in the market. And as an example of that, we refresh 15 million predictions weekly. We also have a live performance tracking in production to provide transparency and visibility to our customers. And we've also built models that are able to evolve and change with the different market conditions. And speaking of live performance tracking, we have a few examples of predictions we recently got right. So Brex was recently acquired by Capital One in January, and we correctly predicted that with a score of 85 the week prior. Another one, similar, Cyclic Materials raised a funding round, which we predicted would happen within 6 months with a score of 84. And finally, I know I've talked about what powers our predictions and the journey we went on to build our prediction, but now let's actually talk about what data is included when it comes to our predictions and insights. So what you see here is really the full suite of our predictions and insights products. On the left, we have our insights or our derived data. And as an example, we have our research and development insight, which tracks patents filed by companies and derives what products they're likely researching and developing as a result of those patents. Another example, we actually already talked about this just before, is our growth insight data, which goes beyond just tracking funding growth, but also looks at customer growth, sales increases, employee count growth in one aggregated insight. Now, on the right, we have our predictions, which includes answering the questions, is this company predicted to grow? Will they raise funding and also when? In addition to that, who could participate in that future predicted round? Will they get acquired and when? Will they go public and when? So you get the gist of what our predictions and insights include. And with that, I'll pass it over to Nick, who will talk about the different personas we have and the use cases for each of these products.
Awesome. Thanks, Monica. Hey, everyone. My name is Nick Hill, Director of Enablement here at Crunchbase. And I want to just walk through some of the primary ways that teams are using Crunchbase today and the value that they're seeing across the different parts of the organization. And we'll start with our go-to-market teams. So one of the biggest challenges that sales and marketing teams are facing is figuring out which companies to prioritize and when. Crunchbase will help these teams identify their ideal customer profile, understand which types of companies tend to buy their product, and then ultimately prioritize accounts that are showing signals of growth. So things like new funding, hiring momentum, leadership changes, expansion activity, and more. And those signals are helping them focus outreach on companies that are most likely entering their buying cycle. Now, that's go-to-market teams, but I want to also talk a little bit about our investor teams. So this is going to be your venture capital or your private equity teams. And their core challenge is identifying promising investment opportunities early and then monitoring risk so that they can de-risk their portfolios. So Crunchbase helps them to surface these emerging companies that match their investment thesis. We use signals, again, like funding activities, growth trends, but also market momentum signals, which helps them to track the portfolio companies for both positive and negative indicators. Now, on the product side, this is actually one of our more unique use cases. Product teams are using Crunchbase both internally and externally. So internally, they're using market intelligence to understand which industries and company profiles are adopting their product and where that future growth might come from. But externally, we're seeing a lot of companies embed Crunchbase data directly into their own products to provide trusted company intelligence to their end customers. Now, the last two here are our corp dev and wealth and asset management teams. For corp dev, the focus is really going to be on strategy. These teams are constantly monitoring the market for potential acquisition targets, emerging competitors, shifts within their industry, and Crunchbase is really helping them to track funding activity, company growth, so that they can ultimately identify some strategically aligned companies earlier than the competition. For my wealth and asset management teams, they're using Crunchbase to track momentum across private markets. So they're looking for things like funding events, acquisitions, or IPO activity that indicate where capital is flowing and ultimately where future wealth creation is happening. So that's a bit of an overview of how our teams are using Crunchbase, but I also want to talk to you about the power of doing this in Snowflake directly. So if we take a look at these Crunchbase use cases native in Snowflake, really the power comes down to being able to combine our proprietary Crunchbase data with your own internal and external data sources so that you kind of get this 1 + 1 = 3 effect. So what do I mean by that? Well, if we look at our go-to-market teams, typically they're going to be combining us with their CRM systems like Salesforce or HubSpot, along with things like product usage or market engagement data. And that allows them to really build that intelligent account scoring model and prioritize the accounts that are most likely to convert. For an investor team, they're typically combining us within Snowflake with data sets from S&P, Capital IQ, or other internal databases. And that helps them identify emerging companies earlier and ultimately monitor portfolio performance against those broader market trends. On the product side, they're looking at market data and firmographic data using tools like Amplitude or Mixpanel, and that allows them to better understand kind of the industries or company types that are adopting their product the fastest. And then for corp dev, they're usually looking at their internal strategy models. So this is going to be more competitive intelligence, acquisition target identification, which helps them build strong deal pipelines. Last but not least, we have our wealth and asset managers. They're typically looking at their own portfolio exposure, their own macroeconomic data sets to help their firms detect kind of emerging sectors and investment themes earlier. So hopefully this shows you a little bit about how Snowflake allows teams to move beyond simply just viewing company data and instead integrating it into their broader analytics and decision-making workflows. And with that, I'll hand things over to Jaden, who will talk through how teams can activate these capabilities directly within Snowflake.
Perfect. And I'm gonna steal the mic from you, Jaden. I had to call out. Zoom liked your presentation too, Nick. I saw a thumbs up on that. So we're at the point of this presentation, right? Everyone understands the power of the data and the insights. And Nick, thank you so much for delivering the impact that it has to the business. And at this point, the question we usually hear is, okay, this is great. So how do I actually activate this inside my own enterprise environment? The good news is it's much easier than people expect. And Jaden, I'll hand the mic back to you because you always have the answers.
Right. Thank you, Fran, for making me sound like the wizard behind the curtain. But yeah, the answer is actually super simple. So Crunchbase is available directly through the Snowflake Marketplace, and we're also a Snowflake Marketplace capacity drawdown partner. So what does that mean? It means that if you're already using Snowflake, you can discover, activate, and start using Crunchbase data right inside of the platform that you're already working on. Right, Fran?
Right. So what does that actually look like, Jaden, when you access Crunchbase through Snowflake Marketplace? What's the value?
Great question. So, first, the data is delivered directly into your Snowflake instance, and that means that there's no complicated ETL, no moving data between systems. It's already structured for the warehouse and it's ready to use. It also stays secure and governed since everything remains within the Snowflake environment. Once you subscribe, the data becomes immediately queryable, and you can start joining it with your internal data sets pretty much right away. And because Crunchbase is warehouse native, teams can use it for things like running SQL queries, powering your machine learning models, automating your workflows, triggering CRM updates, and enriching your dashboards and reporting. And the last key benefit that I'll call out here as well is that usage can draw down against your Snowflake Marketplace commitments. So yeah, you get all the benefits in one pretty much. And I'll let Fran explain what that means in practice.
Amazing. And shout out to Eric Putzler over on the Snowflake team to helping us activate our marketplace capacity drawdown eligibility. And so what this really means, and Jaden just pretty much told you, Snowflake Marketplace allows it to be simply activated the data inside your environment. But what this MCD partnership allows you to do is not have a separate vendor onboarding process. It allows you to have faster procurement. And approvals can often happen under your existing Snowflake agreement. That means organizations can activate Crunchbase using the Snowflake commitment they already have in place. And that's where this becomes really powerful and it removes the friction between discovering a data set and actually putting it to work. All right, so where I'm really excited is Snowflake Intelligence, as it lets you explore Crunchbase's data using natural language. So you can just ask a question and get insight without having to write SQL. You can combine your internal enterprise data with our Crunchbase data all in one place. And we're excited to be one of the Snowflake Intelligence Data Launch partners. Thanks again, Eric, for putting us on. And a huge shout out also to our enterprise solution engineer, Mallory Curtis, as well as Keegan, for building the demo we're about to see here. And this is where you'll be able to see the Crunchbase data live inside Snowflake Intelligence.
And combine Crunchbase data and their own data together. So now I can ask it natural language questions like, show me all the companies that have raised funding in the last 30 days. This agent takes that question, understands what I mean by companies, raised funding, as well as the last 30 days, and converts it into the right SQL across our tables, runs that query, and brings back a clean list, all without having me write a query or even know SQL. So now think if we combined Crunchbase's agent with other data in a customer's database. We can transform that question to be something like, show me all accounts in my pipeline with high Crunchbase growth scores that have raised a funding round in the last 6 months that also don't already have an opportunity associated with it. That would combine Crunchbase's growth and funding events with their own opportunity data in Snowflake and give a prioritized target list in seconds. Now, I hope this gave you a clear picture of what becomes possible when our dataset becomes the intelligent layer behind.
So there you see it, the power of our data inside Snowflake Intelligence. So a huge thank you to Jaden and my amazing co-host on this journey, along with Nick Hill, as well as Monica and Sally and Ariana for putting this together. I hope you're able to walk away with this, is that Crunchbase can help you deliver those private market predictions, and Snowflake delivers native activation at scale. So we're right here to work alongside Snowflake to help you identify opportunities, prioritize revenue, accelerate outcomes, and access it natively in Snowflake. So thank you for joining us, and we're excited to continue the conversation. So please reach out to your Snowflake rep, Crunchbase rep, or feel free to email me directly. Thank you.